For her, that is so light that she, in comparison, she thought to the other prayers of the Prophet of Allah of the Nawafil, she thought that it is too short. It's like he did not, it's like, it's compared to that, did not recite. Let's see now some of those recitation that is being documented from the Prophet ﷺ after the Fatiha in the two Sunnah of the Fajr. By the way, I said that to you, really sharp. The sound is very sharp. If you understand me, it's like giving me a headache. Very sharp. Now,
sometimes after Surah Al-Fatiha, he would recite the ayah, قُولُوا آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْنَا, all the way to the end, in the first rak'ah. And in the second, he used to recite the ayah, قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ تَعَالَوْا إِلَىٰ كَلِمَةٍ سَوَاءٍ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ, all the way to the end.
Okay, so sometimes he would recite قولوا آمنا بالله وما أنزل إلينا وما أنزل إلى إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق ويعقوب والأسباط وما أوتي, to the end of the verse. And also he would recite in the second rak'ah after the Fatiha قل يا أهل الكتاب تعالوا إلى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم أن لا نعبد إلا الله ولا نشرك به شيئا, to the end of the verse. This shows us, number one, that it is permissible to recite one ayah, because that was one ayah, and that is the ayah 136 of Surah Al-Baqarah, the first one, and the second one was ayah 64 in the Surah Ali Imran. So one ayah, okay? So no problem to recite one ayah. But, as I said, the recitation of one ayah is to indicate that this Sunnah of Fajr is light, okay? And that is, by the way, the madhab al-Jumhur. Madhab al-Jumhur, which is al-madhab Imam Malik wa Shafi'i, al-Jumhur, that is, as Imam al-Nawawi says, that is to make the recitation light. Naam.
And occasionally, he would recite instead of the latter, فَلَمَّا أَحَسَّ عِيسَى مِنْهُمُ الْكُفْرِ.
Sometimes he would recite, okay, that in the first rak'ah, which is, we said, that is قُولُوا آمَنَّا, which is in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 136. And in the second rak'ah, instead of reciting قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ تَعَالَوْا, that is verse 64 in Surah Al-Imran, he would recite, that is فَلَمَّا أَحَسَّ عِيسَى مِنْهُمُ الْكُفْرِ. When he says, and sometimes, okay, he would means that he sometimes he done that more than once, and sometimes
sometimes he would recite قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ in the first rak'ah, and قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ in the second.
And when it says as well, sometimes again, please remember that sometimes that means he would repeat that. He would do it again and again. He would recite قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ in the first rak'ah after the Fatiha, and قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ in the second rak'ah. Naam.
Also, he used to say, an excellent pair of surahs they are.
And they used to say as well, what an excellent surah they are. What are they? Yeah. When you say they, I say here they could be lots. But in Arabic, huma means both.
Huma.
It's better to say both, not they, because they don't know how many. Yarhamukallah. Okay, so what is means both here? So which ones?
Surah Al-Ikhlas.
Surah Al-Kafirun and Surah Al-Ikhlas. These two surah, ni'ma suratayn hatayn. So, naam.
he heard a man reciting the former surah in the first rak'ah, meaning Surah Al-Ikhlas. So he said, "This is a slave who believes in his Lord." Then the man recited...
Can I just ask, do you have the Arabic version here? Yes? What do you have in the first, which is وَرَبَّمَا قَرَأَ بَدَلَهَا فَلَمَّا أَحَسَّ عِيسَى مِنْهُ الْكُفْرِ. What is the number reference there? No. The reference in the Quran, what does it say? Before the ayah, what does it say? The reference number.
This is 52:22.
ها؟ غلط مش زي كان قاعد. No, it is number 3 because it's Ali Imran. That's why I was. فلما أحس عيسى منهم الكفر قال من أنصاري إلى الله قال الحواريون نحن أنصار الله. So it's not 23. When I said the 23 and that's why I was really searching. Is there any ayah apart from this?
56.
Okay, so it's surah number 3, verse number 52. Same thing, same ayah, but it's just the number 23 is wrong. Okay. I just found out just now. I was looking at this I've been teaching the book for a long time. I just noticed this number is wrong. نعم طيب. نعم السورتان هاتان. Okay, he heard a man, please again. He heard a man.
So he heard a man reciting the former surah in the
Former
first
surah, what is that former surah?
Surah
Kafirun. So can you just put that as a Surah Al-Kafirun in the first rak'ah after the Fatiha, and he said, Prophet of Allah said,
"This is a slave who believes in his Lord."
so when he heard him reciting in the first rak'ah of the Sunnah after the Fatiha, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ, Surah Al-Kafirun, he said, هَذَا عَبْدٌ آمَنَ بِرَبِّهِ, this is a slave who had believed in his Lord. And then when he recited,
Then the man recited Surah Al-Ikhlas in the second rak'ah. So he said, "This is a slave who knows his Lord."
Subhanallah. So first one, آمَنَ قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ لَا أَعْبُدُ مَا تَعْبُدُ, say, oh you disbelieve, or disbelievers, I do not worship what you don't worship. That means you believed in your Lord. And the other one, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, you know now the attributes of your Lord. This is a man who knew his Lord. طيب. Now it comes to the prayer of the Dhuhr. تفضل.
The Dhuhr prayer.
The Dhuhr here means the obligatory prayer. تفضل.
He sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to recite Surah Al-Fatiha and 2 surahs in the first 2 rak'ahs, making the first longer than the second.
Right, so he makes the longer than the second. The first one longer than the second. So right, that is also these were the first longer than the second, and these 2 as well are going to be longer than the last 2. Go ahead.
Sometimes he would lengthen it to the extent that the Dhuhr prayer would have started, and someone could go to Al-Baqi, fulfill his need.
Not Al-Baqi', Baqi'.
Al-Baqi', fulfill his need.
Fulfill his need, what does that mean?
I'm assuming it means
In English, what does it mean? Fulfill his need.
fulfill his need.
Huh?
Excrete.
Huh?
Use the toilet.
Yes, because when you go to the Baqi', where are you going to fulfill your need of what? Baqi' is mean the cemetery. Where are you going to fulfill your need of what? Go and shop there? So I don't understand the English here. Does he mean fulfill his need? That means answer the call of nature? No. No, he will come back to his place, to his house, but I'm just saying, fulfill his need in the cemetery. Do you understand that? Going to relieve himself? It doesn't mean that. No, it doesn't mean that. Fulfill his need, I don't know. I've got lots of need. I've got beef kebab. I don't know what's fulfill it. It's answer the call of nature. Yeah. But when you have to understand as well, the Baqi' is not just a cemetery. The Baqi' is a little more than that. He doesn't go to the grave and he makes it next to the grave. Huh?
I didn't think I was permissible to do.
No, we don't want to talk about what you think. No. We want to, once the book is talking about, what you think is different. So we want to know that when he says Al-Baqi' is always, Baqi' al-Gharqad is an area which is a huge area. Some of it, part of it is a cemetery. So when he says go to the Baqi', it doesn't mean here he goes to between the graves and he makes his, whatever, urination or excretion. It's not allowed. Because we know for a fact that a person is not allowed to sit on the grave or walk on the grave or humiliate the grave. A'udhu billah. طيب. So the person would go to Baqi'. The Baqi', to arrive to it from the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, you need maybe 2 minutes. from the masjid to the baqi'. 2 minutes. And to come from the baqi' back to the house, to the masjid, that's another 2 minutes. That's 4 minutes. Now, add and take and whatever, how much is you're relieving yourself now? Okay, let's say mashallah is a quick one, 2 minutes. We're going to calculate that, 2 minutes. So 2 plus 2 plus 2, that's 6 minutes. And then he sat down, he goes to his house and make wudu. Let's say his house next to the masjid. That's about 7 to 8 minutes just for what? For one rak'ah. Which is the whole of the prayer of ours. Ours, maybe, very good prayer, mashallah. 9 minutes, all of it, 4 rak'ah. If I did 12 minutes, people start. No, do it with the prayer. So breathe heavily. Yeah, breathe breathily. That means, khalas, finished. Let's get on with it. So, the Prophet ﷺ used to prolong that. I know only one person whom I prayed behind. Only one person. No other. There's no scholars, no students, except for an old person who was next to the hospital when I went to visit a relative of mine. And me and my uncle, who was just a bit older than me, about say 10 years older than me, we went to this masjid to pray the dhuhr. He was next to me. And he prayed. Wallahi, I remember. The whole prayer took 21 minutes. I've never prayed like this. But he wanted for first rak'ah, went to go to the ruku'. My uncle is pushing the imam from behind to become go ruku'. Did you understand that person? So you imagine that you are next to somebody who's in a car and he's driving fast. You're putting your brakes on, isn't it? And the uncle is he's pushing the imam. And then when he did ruku', I said, come on. That's because the people haven't got used to it. Having got used to prayer. So he's pushing the imam from the back. And the imam is not really seeing him, but that's how it was frustrating to somebody who was not having got used to it. When I finished the prayer, I went to him and said, Jazakallahu khairan. This is something another. They haven't kicked you out the Ministry of Endowment yet? Yeah. They haven't because he's an old man, people are accepting him. 21 minutes. Who prayed the Dhuhr? 20 minutes? Everybody? Never exceeded. Dhuhr. 21 minutes. Tarawih, you could pray half an hour. But just Tarawih has voluntary. You could just sit down. The Dhuhr. So that's 7 minutes. That's 21 minutes. That's actually the prayer of the Prophet ﷺ for rak'ah. He used to break the first rak'ah longer than the second rak'ah. And the first 2 longer than the last 2. Okay? First 2, the longer than the last 2. Go ahead.
Sometimes he would lengthen it to the extent that the Dhuhr prayer would have started and someone could go to a plane, al-Baqi', fulfill his need, come back to his place, make his ablution.
So relieve himself or say fulfill his need, yeah?
And then come to the masjid while the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was still in the first rak'ah.
MashaAllah.
It was that long.
MashaAllah. So I said 7 minutes at least. Now, go on.
Also, they used to think that he did it so that the people could catch the first rak'ah.
Okay, well, that was in dispute among the scholars. What was the reason? From that quotation, some of the scholars, if you remember, when we talked about the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he planned to recite a long recitation, and he hears what? The cry of a child. So he would what? Cut his prayer, shorten it. He planned to go long, and we take in from that, and we add this as well to it. That is, when the person in his ruku'. And that is why some of the scholars, okay, from this narration, that is, which is from the Shafi'iyah, they said that the person in his ruku', he could prolong it in order that the person would come inside. To catch up with what? With the rak'ah. Prolong. Imam al-Qurtubi, he did not accept that. And he says that this al-hikmah, or the reason behind this, cannot be justified because it is not really shown clearly. And for verily, Al-Imam Al-Khattabi and Ibn Abdin and others, they said, which is in contrast to the Hanafiya, Muhammad ibn Hassan from the Imam Al-Hanafiya, in contrast to them, they said, yes, the person may prolong the ruku'. Muhammad ibn Hassan Al-Hanafi, they said even prolonging the ruku' for that is shirk. You know why they say shirk? Because you're prolonging it for the sake of the person. You're not prolonging it for the sake of Allah. You're prolonging it for the person to come. And that is absolutely not accepted. Because the person who's making shirk is making it to the people so that he would say, his intention is to praise his prayer. But this is a person who is trying to fulfill the verse, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. Help one another to enjoy good. And I'm helping this person to catch up with the ruku' instead of making him, remember, to clear his throat, telling the Imam to wait. And you might run as well. He would cough, run, just in order to catch up with what? But if he knows the Imam, mashallah, as soon as he had heard him coming, he will give him time, to make his ruku' and join the prayer. طيب. نعم تفضل.
Also, he used to recite in each of these 2 rak'ahs about 30 ayat, such as Al-Fatiha, followed by Surah Al-Sajdah.
Subhanallah. 30 ayat. Now, how did they really count for that? Abu Sa'id Khudri, he says, 30 companions from the ones who had witnessed Battle of Badr. They call them Badri. Badri means they witnessed the Battle of Badr. They themselves, they started saying to amongst themselves, let's just count what is the timing of the Prophet. They don't have a watch. They count by minutes. They counted by the what? Ayat. How many ayat? So all of them, they came up with 30 ayat. There was a consensus that he would recite in the 2 rak'ah 30 ayats. Just like recitation of Alif Lam Tanzil As-Sajda. Surah As-Sajda. Okay? And in it, of course, there's a Fatiha. طيب. What does that mean as well? He says he used to recite in the 2 rak'ah 30 ayah. What does that mean? That means sometimes the 2 rak'ah are what? Equal to each other. Because we said at the beginning that he used to make the what? The first longer than the second. And in this one, we find the Prophet ﷺ, he would make the same recitation. So we put a note there to say sometime Prophet of Allah, he would make the first like the second. First is equal to the second, it's no problem. So the sunnah is to make the first longer than the second. But if you did that, no problem. طيب.
Sometimes he would recite وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ and وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ and وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى and similar surahs.
طيب. Also, how did they know? Because the Prophet used to make it what? A bit loud. A bit loud. He used to make it a bit loud. And this is very important. If the Prophet of Allah deliberately he made this dhuhr prayer a bit loud for the sake of the people to know what he's reciting, it does not require what? Sujood sahu. It does not require what? Sujood sahu. Because some of the scholars, they said that it's a condition, one of the conditions of the prayers, that is, you have to recite silent in the dhuhr. Okay. And that is invalidating that condition. Because if it was a condition, that means if he forgot and he recited loudly, his prayer is recited loudly in his dhuhr, his prayer is what? Invalid. And who says that? Nobody. There are some scholars, but it's not correct. So if he recited loudly, whether it is deliberately because of to show the people what he's reciting, loudly is like, for example, say, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ. He recites قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ so the people would know. He would not recite قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ. Number 2, even if he forgot, then we say he would pray sujood as-sahw, but it does not mean he's what? Invalidation. Because some of the scholars say this invalidation for the prayer, and that is not correct. And this is the Al-Hanafiya, Ahnaf, follow Imam Abu Hanifa, they say that it will be invalid that if he had deliberately recited loudly in the quiet recitation, and then we say this is not correct. So the reading quietly is not a condition. It's a compulsory, but it's not a condition. طيب. Also sometimes if they recite إذا السماء انشقت, and they used to go on.
They could tell that he was reciting in the Dhuhr and the Asr from the movement of his beard.
Okay, so that's the general norm, that he used to recite quietly. How do they know that he used to recite? From the what? Movement of his beard. Because if they used to recite all the time his recitation of these surahs, then there's no need for them to know his recitation from his movement of his beard, because he recites loudly. But most of the time he recites silently, and they know that his recitation from that. But sometimes, as the hadith says, كَانَ يُسْمِعُنَا الصُّورَةِ, he's make it able to hear what the surah is reciting, because he's teaching them what he's going to be reciting in the Dhuhr and Asr and Maghrib and Isha. I mean, imagine a Prophet of Allah is praying on the pulpit, and the Imam is allowed to do that, but I have never seen an Imam dared himself to go and pray in the pulpit. Did you understand that? Pray in the pulpit. The pulpit is like this. Can you make sujood? You have to go what? Put reverse gear. Put reverse and reverse. Make sujood, sajda, and then up he goes second rak'ah. I don't think the people would hold themselves to continue such a prayer. So this Imam is playing around with us. But that's allowed. Now, let's go to the following title.
Recitation of ayat after Al-Fatiha in the last two rak'ahs.
Repeat that please again.
Recitation of ayat after Al-Fatiha in the last two rak'ahs.
Maybe this is something has struck your ears for the very first time. That you're allowed to recite what? Surahs after what? In what? The last two rak'ahs. It never struck your ears before. You thought it's Fatiha only. Because madhahib, some of the madhahib say that if you did that, there's sujood sahu. If you did recite a surah after the Fatiha in the Dhuhr, third rak'ah, or the third rak'ah of the Asr, or the fourth rak'ah, sujood sahu, which is incorrect. It's a sunnah. And I used to do that deliberately in my prayer. I don't know if you said that. I talked about my friend and his daughter. I don't know if you did that or not. Yeah? Yeah, and because I was talking and the microphone, the speakers here in the men is too high, whereas for the sisters really low. They could hear me. So she noticed. She told her father, no, there is no. She said, no, I've heard him reciting. I said, you're wrong and your daughter is correct. And she's a young daughter. Now, تفضل.
He used to make the last two rak'ahs about half as long as the first two.
These are the 30 Badris have noticed that. The one who said that he used to recite 30 ayah, they've noticed that his two rak'ah at the beginning are double the size of what? The last two rak'ah. I mean, the last two rak'ahs and a half. 50% of the first two rak'ah. They used to count them. This is their timing. So he used to recite 30 ayah. How much ayah in the other one? 15. Because there will be 60, and the both of them will be 30. Now,
about 15 ayat. And
there
sometimes
is a footnote there, please.
Yes. This
Ahmad
hadith,
Muslim. Go on.
the hadith contains evidence that reciting more than Al-Fatiha in the last two rak'ahs is a sunnah, and many of the companions did so, among them Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. It is also the view of Imam Shafi'i, whether in Dhuhr or others, and of our later scholars, Abu al-Hasanat al-Laknawi.
اللكنوي في التعليق المجيد أو الممجد على موطأ محمد. نعم.
And he said, some of our companions take a very strange view in obligating as a sajid al-sahw.
They make sujood sahu. That's a strange view.
For the recitation of a surah in the last two rak'ahs. But the commentators on Al-Maniyah, Ibrahim al-Halabi, Ibn Amir al-Hajj,
Ibn Amir Hajj,
Ibn Amir Hajj, and others have refuted this view extremely well. There is no doubt that those who said this were unaware of the hadith, and had it reached them, they would not have said so.
تفضل. Continue what we just said. If you read it again, and sometimes he would make the last two rak'ah shorter than the first two, as in the half. He used to, no, sometimes he used to. No.
He used to make the last two rak'ahs about half as long as the first two, about 15 ayat, and sometimes he would recite only al-Fatiha in them. Sometimes he would let them hear an ayah or so.
طيب. Some of the madhahib actually, if you prolong the rak'ah, they thought that you prolonged it, the third and the fourth, they will say to you, play sujood sahw. Because they thought you forgot. Maybe you thought it was the first and the second rak'ah. So that's what we say they're wrong. طيب.
They would hear the tones of his recitation of سبح اسم ربك الأعلى and هل أتاك حديث الغاشية. Sometimes.
Hold on. Where are we now? After this, there's a title here.
There's no title. So title.
After you finish the last hadith that we read, sometimes he would just do the Fatiha in the last two rak'ah, just the Fatiha. It says there is wujub qira'at al-Fatiha fi kulli rak'ah. Do you have that?
And sometimes he would recite in only al-Fatiha in them. He didn't say anything else.
Where have you got that?
It is in the new book. No, in the old book. In the new book it is.
Huh?
In the new book it is.
You do it in the new old one. Okay.
Read it, the new book.
I think the old book, the one that you've been reciting, is actually correct, because the Arabic version, that is wrong. This is not supposed to be there, being put. So after you said the Fatiha, and it says he كان يسمعهم الآية أحيانا, yes, and he used to make them listen to hear the ayah أحيانا, yes. Okay, then that's correct. Continue with that. So what you need to do with the Arabic book, you see that? Circle this from here. This part is following the part before, whereas this is a separate part. Do you get it? وَكَانَ يُسْمِعُهُمُ الْآيَةَ أَحْيَانًا is continuation from there. Continuation from the page before. تفضل.
So should carry on.
Yes. I think actually the old book is translating maybe from the older version of the Arabic. This is wrong. Misprint this is. Naam.
So
Read.
sometimes.
No.
Whoops, what happened to speak? Sorry. Sometimes he would let them hear an ayah or so.
Okay. Go ahead.
They would hear the tones of his recitation of.
They would hear the what?
Tones.
Tones. Tones, yeah. Nagma. Like the melody. Yeah? Okay, go on. Of سبح اسم ربك الأعلى.
Of سبح اسم ربك الأعلى and هل أتاك حديث الغاشية.
Very important to understand why I emphasize that word, because when you recite in Dhuhr and Asr, we find people, and that's generally, you could really say to me wrong or right, that they make it, they're on their own, much shorter than the loud recitation. True or not? When they pray silent prayers, it is much shorter than. Do you understand why? Because of the lack of the melody. When you recite loud, you start saying, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. But when you recite silently, you do like this, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So let's talk about maybe less than half of the melody. And if you go to the Fatiha, if you finish the Fatiha with the melody loud, it's double or even 3 times the Fatiha with what? Quietly and no melody. This narration gives us something that Shaykh al-Albani used to say. That when you pray the Dhuhr, and you're praying quietly, you're praying with the melody, even with your quiet recitation. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's your Fatiha. I'm going to make it louder. But I'm saying what? Quiet, without melody coming. So imagine I'm doing melody with a movement of my mouth, and that makes your prayer long. And here he says, كانوا يسمعون منهم النغمة. Nagma means the melody, the tone. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So you say it. So it's exactly the same timing, whether quietly or loudly. طيب. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى. And the second one, هل أتاك حديث الغاشية. And this is we're talking about what? Talking about what? The last two rak'ah of Dhuhr. تفضل.
Sometimes he would recite وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ and وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ. So,
okay, and similar surahs.
And similar surahs.
And sometimes
he would recite وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى and similar surahs.
Okay, and when you say sometimes, that means there is more than one time. There's a repetition. This would mean there is a repetition. Okay, there's a repetition. Now we come to the following title, please.
Salatul Asr.
Salatul Asr.
He sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to recite Al-Fatiha and two other surahs in the first two rak'ahs, making the first longer than the second.
Hang on a second, please, brother. Hang on a second. Just let me count with you. Right, I have to investigate more into this issue regarding the Arabic, which is not really synchronizing with you, the one which is the compulsory recitation of the Fatiha in each rak'ah. So I have to, because there is something here being put some not really correct. But anyway, let's start with Salat al-Asr. Jazakallah khair. Fadal.
He sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to recite Surah Al-Fatiha and two other surahs in the first two rak'ahs, making the first longer than the second. And they used to think that he did it so that the people could catch the rak'ah.
Continue.
He used to recite about 15 ayat in each of the first two rak'ahs, about half as much as he recited in each of the first two rak'ahs of Dhuhr. And
so that means the Asr in totality is half of the Dhuhr in its entirety, okay? Half of the time. So if the first two rak'ahs would be 15-15, then the second two rak'ahs of the Asr will be what, like 7-7, timing wise. Now, so if you see the Imam prolonging the first rak'ah of the Dhuhr, then making it shorten the second rak'ah, and making the last two rak'ah almost half of the first two rak'ah, this Imam knows the Sunnah. Again, if this Imam of your Dhuhr makes the first rak'ah long, then the second rak'ah is less, and then the total time of the first two rak'ah is double the time of the last two rak'ah, this Imam knows the Sunnah. You understand? Fadal.
And he used to make the last two rak'ahs about half as long the first two. He used to recite Al-Fatiha in the last two, and he would let them hear an ayah or so sometimes. he used to recite the surahs mentioned under Dhuhr prayer above.
Jazakallah khair. Now, coming to a sunnah which is not being mentioned here. Sunnah al-Asr. Sunnah al-Asr. We have in Silsila Sahih of Shaykh al-Albani himself, rahimahullah, 2920. Muhammad ibn al-Muntashir, he says that he used to pray 2 rak'ah after the Asr. It was said to him, why are you doing that? He said, I would have never prayed them except that I have seen Masruq, the well-known tabi'i. He used to pray them. But I have also asked Aisha. And Aisha, she said, Messenger of Allah does not leave 2 rak'ah before Fajr or 2 rak'ah after Asr. Pooh. So the 2 rak'ah of the Asr is like emphasis as the 2 rak'ah of what? Before Fajr. So he said, again, Muhammad al-Muntashir, when he was praying the 2 rak'ah after the Asr, he said to him, why are you doing this? He said, you know, if I have had it, well, I'm not just praying them because I have seen Masruq praying them, but I asked Aisha myself that and she said the Prophet of Allah, he would not leave 2 rak'ah before the Fajr, 2 rak'ah after Asr. Another narration, 2 rak'ahs that the Prophet of Allah would never abandon, whether it is loud or silent. That is 2 rak'ah before Fajr and 2 rak'ah after Asr. Now, let's just talk about Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, because it was narrated that he used to hit those people whom they used to pray after Asr. Our Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, he says that this is from his ijtihad in order to close the door for more evil. Where there is a hadith explains that to us, all of it. He says that Shuraih radiallahu anhu, he says, I have asked Aisha about the prayer of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How used he pray? Then he would pray 2 rak'ah after it. So I said, Umar used to hit these people who pray these 2 rak'ah. I used to tell them off. She said, Umar, he used to pray them himself. Umar used to pray them himself. And he knew that the Prophet ﷺ used to pray them. But because your people, they are people, basically like there is ignorance in them. They pray the Dhuhr, and they pray between Dhuhr and Asr, and they pray Al-Asr, and then they pray between an Asr and Maghrib. Umar Khattab, he used to hit them because of that. Meaning that he used to hit them because of they delay these 2 rak'ah until sun becomes what? Red. So it shows here that Umar Khattab used to hit these people to pray these 2 rak'ah, not because of praying these 2 rak'ah, but because these people, they don't stop praying after these 2 rak'ah, or they are delaying these 2 rak'ah until the sun becomes yellowish, which is prohibited time. I'm just quoting you here the cream of the crop of what Shaykh al-Albani used to say. And if the Shaykh al-Albani had this in his knowledge, he would have put it in his book regarding the Asr Sunnah. So, as a cream of the crop of the whole thing, he said that the 2 rak'ah after Asr, they are Sunnah. Okay? As long as you pray them before sun becomes yellow. And Umar Khattab used to hit because of his ijtihad, hit these people who do it, because of that they don't stop praying after that, or they delay them until the sun becomes yellow. And Umar Khattab, as Aisha said, he used to pray them. And Bukhari narrated saying that Abdullah ibn Umar said, I used to pray just like I used to see my companions praying. And I don't forbid people praying the day or during the night, except do not pray close to the yellow, when the sun becomes yellow, or when the sun is setting or the sun is rising. Fine. That's an explanation for this, just to make sure that you understand that these two sunnah of the Asr are being. There's a hadith which is also misunderstood. Prophet ﷺ said, لا تصلوا بعد العصر, لا صلاة بعد العصر, no prayer after Asr. But there's a continuation of that hadith, which is very important. That is, unless the sun is white, unless the sun is high and pure. Two narrations. إلا والشمس بيضاء نقية, إلا والشمس بيضاء مرتفعة. So as long as it's the sun high, the sun is clear, pray. But once the sun becomes low and becomes yellowish, then you're not supposed to pray any voluntary prayer, except for those voluntary prayer, of course, which they have a reason, like the Sunnat al-Wudu, Tahiyyat al-Masjid, all of that. Or you have delayed your Asr for such reason, whatever, not deliberately, of course, and you could pray during that time. You just remembered, you pray during that time, but don't deliberately delay your Asr obligatory to that time, because you'll be a hypocrite. طيب. Alhamdulillah, now we've finished the Asr prayer. Yes? Maghrib.
Salat al-Maghrib. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to sometimes recite the short Mufassal surahs, so that when they had finished praying with him, they could go away and it was possible to shoot an arrow and see where it landed.
So that means the Prophet, when does he pray the Maghrib? At the beginning of the time or later on? At the beginning of the time. Because when they finish the prayer, still, if they use the arrow and shoot it, they will know where it lands. That means there's light. Okay? So, now.
Once, while on a journey, he recited Wattini was Zaytun in the second rak'ah.
By the way, it's supposed to be Wattini, not Tini was Zaytun.
Wattini was Zaytun.
حط واو قبل التين. حط واو حط واو. ضع واو. There's a misprint here. طيب نعم. والتين والزيتون in second rak'ah. تفضل.
But sometimes he would recite the long or medium Mufassal surahs. Hence, he would recite
الذين كفروا وصدوا عن سبيل الله. سورة محمد. نعم.
Or Surah Al-Tur or Surah Al-Mursalat, in which he recited in the last prayer he prayed.
نعم.
Sometimes he would recite the longer of the two surahs, Surah Al-A'raf, in the last two rak'ahs.
طولي الطوليين. طولي أو طول الطوليين. طول الطوليين. That means one of the two long surahs. The first long one is Al-An'am. The second one is Al-A'raf. So you would recite Al-A'raf in the two rak'ah. And sometimes
Anfal.
Anfal in the two rak'ahs. Now, I don't know if you know Surah Al-A'raf or not. You could just go and see it. If you need, well, the Prophet says, Ahyana, that means it happened from him number of times. Most of we said before, what is the longest prayer? Fajr. Second one? Third one? Last shorter one? And the shorter one? Maghrib. It's always shorter Maghrib. But no problem if you have recited long. And if you're going to be an imam and leading the people, and you're going to recite Surah Al-A'raf in the Maghrib, you better give a warning, maybe a 1 week warning. Every prayer, I'm not joking. Every prayer, you say that, brothers, on such and such Jumu'ah day, Maghrib prayer, we're going to pray Surah Al-A'raf. This is either be a warning for some people that are going to be leaving, they're not going to come, or some people are going to be migrating. You go to the masjid to listen to that. And I'll bet you will find the first masjid may be full. If you're going to keep, especially with these WhatsApp messages, today we're going to be, or Jumu'ah, such and such day, we're going to be reciting Surah Al-A'raf. Wallah, it's a sunnah to be revived. Wallah. the Imam knows Araf, mashallah, by heart, let him do it. Unless the Sunnah Masjid Brixton, to be known that we have prayed in one day, Maghrib, Surah Al-Araf. But as I said, warning. I was saying a warning, alerting the people, a warning. I don't know. As I said, some people will not come. Bye-bye. It's got things to do. And other people, they will come just to live the atmosphere, the environment that the Prophet of Allah used to do with the companions. How can you take it or not? He started sort of massaging your legs now. Huh? That will be taking you at least an hour to the prayer. Maybe 45 minutes, I will do it. If it's fast recitation. طيب. You will never see your arrow where it lands after that. It will be dark. طيب. Sunnah al-Maghrib.
The recitation in the Sunnah prayer after Maghrib. In this prayer, he used to recite قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ and قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ.
Can I just ask you, there's a footnote, which we have skipped. That is for previously when it says the two of the long two. You remember? The long of the long two. بطول الطوليين.
Oh yes. This is called Al-Tulayain. Al-A'raf is agreed to be one and An'am is the other, according to the most correct saying, as in Fath al-Bari.
No. Well, it's actually the correct one because with Sunan Abi Dawood, it's got it there. Sunan Abi Dawood. That Surah Al-An'am is the second one. طيب, by which, alhamdulillah, we stop here. I need to leave within next 3 minutes. I've got something to do, very importantly. So I would like you to please summarize your questions within the next 5 minutes. Fadda.
Is there any sunnah prayer before Maghrib?
Is there any sunnah prayer? There's all the prayers between adhan and iqamah, there is 2 sunnah. But it's not sunnah for the Maghrib, sunnah for all the prayers. Prophet ﷺ, he said, ما بين كل أذانين صلاة لمن شاء. Between 2 adhans, means adhan and iqamah, there's a prayer to whosoever he wills, whosoever he wishes. So if you don't want it, you sit down. And I've seen no number of scholars in front of me, when it's done, it says, you don't stand up for the prayer. Until the iqamah start, they make them. So it is, and they do that deliberately. So that you could ask them, why didn't you pray before the iqamah? So they will tell you, it is liman sha, whosoever he wills, whosoever he wishes. Tfaddal.
In some masajid they pray the asr late. Is it possible to pray the sunnah asr after this, or
in some masajid, which is the Hanafi masjid, they pray the asr late. If they pray the asr late, I don't think they pray it next to the sunset. It's late, but because the Hanafi timing is different from the timing of the Jumhur. The Hanafi timing is basically when the shadow becomes double. And the hadith says double, but it means here the shadow of the object plus the meridian. I'm not going to go into that, but it's actually, it does show up so much in the summer. In the winter, it's not that much. But in the summer, you got an hour and a half, at least. Now.
Can I say, if I'm doing wudu in the toilet and I've stepped in already, can I say Bismillah on my head?
If you have,
Can I just say Bismillah like this?
I don't understand. So you made the wudu, yes?
In the toilet already, I'm going to do wudu.
Yes. In the toilet?
Yeah, they've got a sink.
Yeah, you mean the toilet's got a sink in it?
Yeah, yeah.
You have no problem saying Bismillah when you make a wudu. This is the must upon you.
And can I dry myself before I say that?
You dry yourself before you say the dua. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
Toilet, so I don't say it. So I'll dry myself with the tissue, then step out.
Listen to me, brother. What is actually making you think like this is that you think that I cannot mention Allah's name in the toilet. No. You're not allowed to mention Allah's names when you're doing it. Whether you're going up or down. You understand me? In that area.
So I can say it.
Yeah, but in the sink, yeah, some of the toilets are bedrooms. Not that. It's got jacuzzi. Yeah. Oh, mashallah, you can sleep there. Bedroom. So it's only the toilet, and that's why you're not supposed to make wudu inside that hole. You're not. Now. Fadlan.
What is Sunnah Rawatib? I've heard some Imams, Sunnah Rawatib,
Rawatib, that means the sunnah that links to the fard. Ratiba. Ratiba, that means the one linked to the fard. ترتبت على الفريضة. الرواتب for the dhuhr, maximum 4 before and 4 after. Do they pray them 2-2 or 4? If you pray them 4, no problem. That means one go. Middle tashahhud and no salutation. But the best to pray 2-2-2-2. Okay? Now, you could pray 2 before, 2 after. You could pray 4 before, 4 after. It's up to you. Maximum is 4 before, 4 after. Naam.
When can we pray the sunnah for Fajr? Before the you have to wait for the azan or when the time is in?
When you pray the Sunnah al-Fajr, you don't have to pray that to wait for the adhan. You have to wait for the correct time. Not the adhan. Correct time. Because the timing here or everywhere is not based upon seeing Fajr. It's based upon calendar. And they say that 12 degrees and 13 degrees. God knows. And you say sometimes your Fajr is still dark, akhi. Okay? There is a Google. There's a UK map, I think. Just put in the Google, what is the nautical dawn in my area? What is the nautical? It will come up to your website and it will show the Fajr. And that is the Fajr. So it's about, in my area, it's about 10-15 minutes after the adhan shows. That's why the prayer. So maybe at the moment it's 6:35, 30. I can't remember in your area, but around that time. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. Last question. Yalla Bukhari. Abu Ubaidah.
You said you could not make, you could make it in the go.
In a?
In the go, after before Dhuhr, you could make it like 2.
You could make it 4, yes.
Yeah, you could make it 4. Wouldn't that make it look like the right?
No problem. Sunnah like this. Because the Prophet said prayed 4. And that is why some of the scholars say we don't know. And Ibn Tarawih said that he prayed 4. We don't ask how long it is. So they prayed 4. But because there's a hadith general, the prayer of the day and the night, 2-2. Salatul Layli wa Nahar, Mathna, Mathna. Because of that, but if somebody prays in 4, no problem. Okay? سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خير.